extraordinary council meeting for 23rd of February 2022, and we'll just check that we are online. Excellent. So welcome everybody, welcome to our guests in the audience and welcome to the people listening at home tonight. I now declare the meeting open at 7:02 p.m. So if we just go through members of the public that have registered to speak by audio-visual link on an agenda item. So I believe we have one speaker. If I could please ask you to keep your microphone muted and video off until I invite you to speak. Speakers will not be able to present material as part of their speaking time or share their screen. So I ask councillors also if we just review the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette, including debate on an item will commence only once we have a mover and seconder for the item other than a Merrill minute. The mover of the motion has first right to speak on the motion. The mover has a right of reply before the motion is put to a vote. Raise your hand, please, if you wish to speak, and please indicate whether you are speaking for or against the motion. So you can speak up to 5 minutes on a motion and a similar time for any amendment. Okay, I also would like to remind everyone that video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. I now move to item number 1, which is acknowledgement of country, and Auntie Barb was going to attend today to do Welcome to Country, but unfortunately she's had to be an apology for tonight's meeting due to a death in the family. So our condolences to Auntie Barb and family and friends of Uncle Keith Sims. Auntie Barb did request that on her behalf that we make some acknowledgements in relation to milestones, and this is linked, as councillors will know, we've got the wrap which is on the agenda tonight as well. So so Dulcie Sims is 92 today, and Auntie Barb believes Dulcie is Bayside's oldest Aboriginal resident. So, and then we've got Auntie Esme Sims, who turned 91 on Valentine's Day, so we pass on our best wishes for their birthdays. And Bayside Council respects the traditional custodians of the land, elders past and present, on which this meeting takes place tonight, and acknowledges the Gadigal and Bidjigal clans of the Sydney Basin. I just wanted to speak on a couple of things. So just the first one is, I just wanted to say it's been very challenging couple of days with a relentless downpour of rain across Sydney. And I just wanted to thank and acknowledge the efforts of council staff who worked into the night and again today with SES and police to try and manage the situation. So first of all, and councillors, I'd also like us to just take a moment to acknowledge a member of our Bayside community, Mr. Simon Nellist. We were all shocked and devastated by the shark attack that took place at Little Bay last week, and on behalf of Bayside, I'd just like to pass on our heartfelt sympathy to his fiancée and family and friends. Thank you, councillors. I now move to the second agenda item, and I would like to thank and invite Reverend Adam Clark from St Stephen's Anglican Church at East Lakes to open the meeting in prayer, please. If you'd like to all be upstanding.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the many blessings you have given to us, for the life we have, the relative peace and safety we enjoy, for work, rest, family, friendship and community. Lord, we give you thanks. The worst of the latest COVID wave is behind us. And Father, we do ask for your mercy upon our broken and divided world. Especially tonight, we think of the Ukraine. Lord, please bless the efforts of all who are working for peace. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the staff and counsellors of Bayside Council. I pray that you would bless their labours as they seek to improve the lives of the residents of our area. Lord, guide the counsellors as they meet this evening. Give them wisdom in all their discussions. Bless them as they work together for the common good. I pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Clark. We now move to agenda item 3, which is apologies. So, as there are no apologies, all councillors are present tonight. We've got no one online this week. All right, disclosures of interest. So I remind councillors that you should also notify the General Manager in advance of the meeting of any disclosures of interest so that we can assist the Minutes Secretary and prepare them on the screen. So any disclosures of interest must also be made at the meeting. So I would just like to disclose to start by disclosing a significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest in relation to 7.7 on the basis that I attended but purchased my own ticket for a fundraiser, but the fundraiser was actually raising money for Bayside Women's Shelter, of which I am chair. So I will leave the chamber for that item and ask the Deputy Chair to take the chair. Any other disclosures of interest?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two items. In relation to 7.1, I declare a less significant non-pecuniary interest. Last year I attended the flag raising, the Greek Independence flag raising service at their building in Hepper's building in Rockdale. I was invited as a councillor, which I've previously declared. And in relation to 7.7, same item, I'm declaring a less significant non-pecuniary interest. 14 years ago, I had a christening at the building for my son. I haven't been there at that restaurant for a number of years by choice, but I will be in the chamber as I believe this is it's a less than significant declaration. Thank you.
Hi, in relation to item 7.7, I'm declaring a less than significant non-pecuniary interest. I also attended the fundraiser. I purchased my own ticket and I will be staying in the chamber.
I'd also like to declare a less than significant non-pecuniary interest in item 7.7. I was at the same fundraising dinner for which we bought our own tickets, so just wanted to declare that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Werner, and that sometimes happens when we supporting community initiatives that we all end up at the same function. Councillor Awada.
Madam Mayor, less than significant non-pecuniary interest on item 7.1 as a member of my family lives in close proximity to the site.
Thank you, Councillor Awada. Will you be leaving the chamber or?
No, I'll be voting on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I declare two things tonight. I declare a less than significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest in item 7.6 on the basis of perception as I am part of Peaceful Bayside that advocates for a creative Bayside, and I'll be in the room for the discussion and vote. And as well as attending the function that you also intended. I will actually be declaring a significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest on item 7.7 on the basis of perception, as Ilias Zortzis, a candidate at the council election on the 4th of December 2021, is the son-in-law of the lessee of the Lasands restaurant, and he gave me preferences as his third preference at the election. On that basis, I will leave the chamber and not be present for the consideration and voting on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Are there any further disclosures of interest?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 7.1, less than significant non-pecuniary interest, and I've declared this in the past, that I'm a former member of this organisation, but I've not participated in any committee work that they've undertaken. Item 7.7, again, I've visited this restaurant many times, living in the area for 20 odd years, so I must have gone there maybe 200-300 times in the past few years, but I have no connection with the operator at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Souness. No further disclosures? All right, thank you, councillors. The disclosures will be noted in the minutes. All right, councillors, I now move towards item 5, which is in relation to the mayoral minute. And I'd just like to say that in relation to putting this mayoral minute forward around, the Racism Not Welcome campaign. So this is which local councils have been asked to embrace and promote as part of Harmony Day, which is observed each year on March 21. So Harmony Day, as you know, council is quite involved in and celebrates cultural diversity and aims to foster inclusiveness and respect, which are things as Bayside Council we strive for, being a welcoming, inclusive community. So, and as we know, councillors, the cultural wealth of Australia is steeped in its diversity, and some of us were present last night at the citizenship ceremony, and just seeing the range of cultures and hearing their stories is just a wonderful experience. So what, in relation to this, I see this as another step towards building a community that is inclusive and accepting of everyone. And racism, sadly, does exist. And many of us here who are first generation Australians have experienced racism. And racism is a learnt response. It is, we're not born that way, children learn it from the community they live in, the country they live in. So I think it's up to us as leaders, as community leaders, to do all we can to ensure that residents feel they truly belong and are safe and respected. And so this is just by joining this, and I just want to make it clear we're not suggesting, I'm not envisaging or suggesting that signs are going to pop up all over residential streets. That's not the intent of this. There may be appropriate places that council can determine, such as the PCYC or the area downstairs where the library is, and so that just wanted to explain the intent there of the mayoral minute. So I move that the mayoral minute be adopted, and as per the recommendations there, and ask if there's any discussion. Thank you, councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Please.
Yeah. In November 2020, Independent Councillor Pauline Lockie brought a motion to Inner West Council to secure its endorsement for the Racism Not Welcome campaign. And the street signs were part of a larger campaign which included a video, an art exhibition with an anti-racism theme, stickers and signs for businesses, and a major community event revolving around the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination on March 21st. I spoke to Councillor Lockie about this, and she said the street signs are designed to be a unifying and visible element, but the idea is that each LGA takes the initiative to develop its own further banners at the grassroots level. I also spoke to Rosanna Barbaro from the Addison Road Community Organisation about the campaign, and she suggested other ways the community can get involved, like campaigns in schools and potentially even a Bayside Council audit around diversity and gender to improve future planning and participation. So they both were very excited that Bayside Council might be getting behind this and urged that we layer it in with some extra community initiatives to ensure that it becomes a two-way conversation with the community about the issues. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Douglas, and and councillors will know we host a very successful multicultural event each year. We also do a number of things of Harmony Day, and this year council will be lighting up both Rockdale and Botany Town Hall in the colour of orange for Harmony Day. So I think having a range of initiatives is vital. Thank you, Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of this mayoral minute. I see it as a great celebration of culture and diversity in the area, and I believe that this can send strong messages to the community if these signs are placed around our community assets, our community centres, maybe even skate parks. I'd also like to see, based on what Councillor Douglas said, a community education campaign rolled out with this, as I'm sure is already on the cards. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Hannah.
Madam Mayor, I hope I can speak freely on this. So I just want to be clear that I'm definitely not against anything that is proposed to in any way try and suppress racism that may exist. But I must admit I was shocked to see this come up as a mayoral minute, because there's been a lot of publicity about how this has actually divided a community, particularly in Wallara. And it's evidenced by the fact that the actual council over there is very finely divided on it. And I even though it's not intended, if you have a negative message, which this embodies, by inference, there is a suggestion that people are racist. And I know in this community that is definitely not the case. I really think that we can actually embrace something like this, but have something more positive. I don't think having signs, whether they be strategically placed with a negative message, is the way to go. I personally think we should be embodying in our normal signage, and it could be done without any cost when signs are replaced, where we could say something along the lines of, Bayside Council, we've got serving our community, maybe we could have something like a welcoming community or all-inclusive community. I just think this throws off inferential accusation, and having watched this in the media, I really don't believe we should be going down this path, because this has got the capacity to divide a community, not unite it. I think the thinking behind it's fine, but I think the message is negative. And I think we need to turn that around into a positive message. And if that was the case, I'd be more than happy to support it. But in its current form, I'm sorry I can't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Are there any further speakers? Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for bringing on this motion. I think it's a fantastic initiative. I understand where Councillor Hannah's coming from, but I do have to respectfully disagree. I think this is in fact a very positive campaign. We're making clear that in our community, racism isn't welcome. It's not making accusations against anybody. There are no inferences to be drawn. This is simply the fact that we are a wonderful multicultural community. We're one of the most multicultural communities in the state. And we're joining with councils who have very successfully run this, like Inner West Council, like the City of Sydney, like Cumberland Council, where it has been very successful. So I fully support the motion and welcome it for our city.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Are there any further speakers?
Madam Mayor, I did speak to you. Yes, I did send a sign. I actually was shocked the way it was worded. I don't like a negative sign. The only positive thing is it's red and white. So St George might be happy, but they might not be happy about the sign. And south on the other side, east side, you better put it red and green, because otherwise they'll be unhappy. So I read that. I did look at their website. I couldn't see anything they do. I don't know who they are. they sell T-shirts, and that was, you've got to unify the community, and I think you're dividing the community. The girl that ran with me, it was number 3, her husband works for the Immigration Department. He could not believe this was the wording that we're happy to put up. Another one, a resident emailed me tonight. I rang him back because I've known them for years. He said, they put a sign up in my street, I will take it down. He believes, and that's I think, the feeling you're going to get. But I'm going to move a motion, and it's come from our code of meeting practice. It's in red writing, so I think it's fairly new, that the mayoral minute must be deferred because when a mayoral minute makes a recommendation, which if adopted, would require the expenditure of funds on works and or services other than those already approved, provided for in the Council's current adopted operational plan, it must identify the source of funding for the expenditure, because we don't know how much it's going to cost. That is I can't read, it's so small, the writing. This is the subject of the recommendation. If the mayoral minute does not identify a funding source, the Council must defer consideration of the matter pending a report from the General Manager on the availability of funds for implementing the recommendation if adopted. We've got that at the base of it, but the Code of Meeting Practice says we cannot adopt it until we get the report back. So I'm moving that this is deferred until the report comes back from the General Manager, which is a part of that recommendation, because technically we can't approve it according to the Code of Meeting Practice. So I'm moving that this is deferred until we have the report back from the General Manager identifying the funds, as per clause 9.10 of the Code of Meeting Practice.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor,
Madam Mayor, maybe I can assist in moving forward and through you to the Director of City Performance, without putting you on the spot. Do we have an idea for such a thing, the costing? Did we, knowing that this is coming about, do we have an idea, 100,000, 150? Sorry to put you on the spot. I think if we get an idea, and if let's, for example, it's 100,000, where would the funding come from?
Through the Mayor, councillors, if you have a look at the motion itself, it actually isn't asking council to invest any funding. The background does talk about some of the possibilities and notes that a report would need to come back if there is expenditure to be expended. But if you look at the actual motion, it's worded in such a way that it talks about agreeing with the sentiment. It acknowledges our progressive and welcoming city. It talks about endorsing a campaign, looking for partnership opportunities. Taking those 5 points, there is no investment required at this moment in time. But should we look to do any other elements of a campaign that it requires investment, we would need to come back to you, and that's noted in the body of the report.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I was just trying to assist to moving forward. And I commend you, Madam Mayor, for this mayoral minute. Racism does exist, and I've experienced it myself. Okay, I migrated, I was 8 years of age, and I thank my father for choosing Australia. I thank him every day, actually. He could have went to America, Germany, God knows well. When I was educated at Bexley Primary School, and may he rest in peace, Mr. Ron Rathbone, he was my teacher, and he was actually the person that encouraged me to be on this council in 2004. Now, everyone used to call me a wog, and I used to get upset. I got into a lot of fights. And then till he pulled me over and he said, Michael, WOGs, you could say that it stands for Western Oriental Gentleman. So every time people would call me a WOG, I would smile, and that got them more upset. Another incident when we started eating a Lebanese bread, which was never heard of at that time, I used to roll it like a kebab and eat it, and everyone would look at me and say, you such and such, go back to where you came from. And guess what? This is multiculturalism now. There's kebab stores everywhere, and guess what? Everyone loves a kebab. Racism does exist, minority, I agree, but it should not happen. So I will support that on the basis of racism should not exist at all in our community. We live in harmony, especially Bayside. And you well said in your citizenship, they're from all over different cultures, different worlds. So I'll support that mayoral minute.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. So Councillor Barlow's got a motion.
Just an amendment. I can't see it on the screen.
Okay, we have an amendment. Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Oh, I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Therefore,
Can we just get a ruling on that amendment? She's asked for a code of meeting practice point of view through you, Madam Mayor.
Written in red.
Is that out of line, or is that?
so it, as indicated by the, from what the General Manager said, that it already indicates in the report that a report will come to council and it is not committing council to any funds. So therefore, I think that the amended motion's been dealt with.
The wording is very clear. We cannot vote for it until the funding is sourced. That is the wording in, you can pass it up, but
So, yeah, the ruling is there is no funding, so therefore the amendment cannot be. So we'll put the amendment. All right, there's an amendment there, so happy to put the amendment, which is the mayoral minute be deferred until a report comes back to council. So we'll put the amendment to the motion. All those in favour of the amendment say aye. Against? Okay, I declare the amendment lost. Therefore, I will put the original motion. So, Councillor Barlow has called a division on the amendment. So all those that are in favour of the amendment, please put up your hand. I note we have Councillor Hannah, Councillor Barlow and Councillor Tsounis. Now all those against the amendment, please put up your hand. We have Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fardell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Werner, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall and Councillor Cedrak. Oh, sorry. Councillor Wada. Have you got all those? Excellent, thank you. So now I will put the original motion. All those in favour of the original motion say aye. Aye. Against? I declare that carried. Well, we will call a division as requested by Councillor Barlow, and therefore all those in favour of the original motion, please put up your hand. I shall go around the room again. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Fardell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Naji, Councillor Saranowski, Councillor Tsounis, joined us, Councillor Werner, Councillor Awada, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Cedrak. All those against the motion is Councillor Hannah and Councillor Barlow. Thank you, councillors. All right, I would now...
Move for suspension of standing orders to raise an item in the passing of the late John Raper and also Norm Provan. If I may And what I wanted to move
Can I
is that-
just ask if there's a seconder to seconded Councillor Naji? Thank you. Yes,
Thank
please
you,
go
Madam-
ahead, Councillor
Madam
Saranovsky.
Mayor, the reason I rise is that a number of sporting people have approached me, and I did have the opportunity to meet both of them. The late Norm Provan actually had a furniture shop here in Rockdale, as a child, no, that's Harvey Norman. Yeah, that was their first store, and I had the pleasure over the last 10 years to meet Mr. Raper. I always refer to him as Mr. Raper. For me, Madam Mayor, he was an inspirational person and inspired a lot of young kids to play rugby league, and the activities. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was very much a community-orientated person. The late Norm Provan was very mild compared to the late John Raper. As I said, I had the opportunity to know him for the last probably 10 or 15 years. And I'll just tell you a little story. He was an absolute character, and he was your typical mate. And what he achieved in football, he put back into being able to talk to people. And I'll just share a story with you. As we all know, well, some may not know, I don't drink alcohol. And the late Mr. John Raper used to always, well, frequently would go to the Alawai Hotel. And I was the gopher to get the alcohol because he'd be virtually gone because he'd love a drink. So I would go up to the bar and order beers and I used to always call him Mr. Raper. I never called him Johnny Raper. I called him Mr. Raper because the utmost respect that I had for him. And I wanted to raise it tonight, Madam Mayor, was the fact that his funeral is on Monday, and it's a state funeral. But I think in terms of the St George area and seeing the videos of the games and talking to a lot of people from St George, he was such an inspirational player. I met him, I never saw him play, but I met him after. And I think it was just fitting that we note in the minutes that the passing of Norm Provan and also Johnny Raper. Thank you. Thank you for allowing it.
No, thank you, Councillor Saranovsky. And just for the purposes of procedure, my apologies, I needed to put that we were happy to vote on the procedural motion. So all those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, declare it carried. So thank you very much, Councillor Saranovsky, for sharing that. All right, so the motion, so we put the motion that Council acknowledges the recent passing of Johnny Raper, an immortal in the rugby league world. Johnny Raper played a vital role in the St George Dragons' 11 years of straight premiership wins in the National Rugby League. So is there any further discussion to the motion? So I have a mover, Councillor Saranovsky, and a seconder, Councillor Naji. Any discussion? All right, we then put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, declare it carried. Okay. We will now be moving into public forum, and as indicated, there is a speaker to item 7.7. So some councillors have declared an interest in this item, as I have, and I will now leave the chair and I will ask the Deputy Chair to come and proceed over this item.
Okay, thank you, councillors. We have got one speaker in the public forum, Mr. Mark Assad, who is the applicant speaking for the officer recommendation. Have we got Mr. Assad on the line? Coming.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Assad. Please go ahead.
Thank you. For starters, I would like to thank thank yourself for the opportunity to talk this evening. And I'd also like to thank the officer for their recommendation and their report. We agree with these findings on behalf, so I'm the applicant for the development application that was lodged previously for the alterations and additions to the rear facade of the Republic Bar and Grill. So nevertheless, we agree with these findings and we look forward to a swift development application following tonight's result, of course. Following tonight's determination, if favourable, we'll be lodging the DA. So if there's any concerns or any questions for the councillors, I'm happy to provide any relevant town planning related questions to answer if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Assad. Does any councillors have any questions for Mr. Assad while he's available? No? Okay, can we have a mover and a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Fardell and Councillor Naji. Thank you. Is there any speakers?
I've got a few questions on the matter. Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
this suggests it's asking for landowners' consent. Have we got consent from the lessee to start with? Because we deal with the lessee, we don't deal with Republic or the applicants in this case when it comes to our tenancy arrangements. So let's answer that question
Ask
first.
Mr. Mamo to address that question. GM.
Through the chair, yes, we do have a consent from the head lessee, and as landowner, now council is required to consider whether they will give consent.
So we have a written request from the lessee that we can view if we have to. Okay, is that current lessee up to date? I know COVID's impacted a lot of the people that we deal with. Are we up to date? I'm not asking for numbers. I'm allowed to talk. I'm asking, are we up to date? Because in my view, if we're expanding the footprint of the lessee and allowing more tenantable area, we should be up to date what we're doing, because we hassle other smaller operators, yet this larger one tends to be a flag mast operator in the area. If I can get an answer to that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. It's my understanding that there is a confidential paper here. If you wish to debate that, I would suggest we move to a confidential session at the end of the current proceedings. We are in the public forum at the moment, and that may touch there. If I can suggest, though, that given there may be some issues there that need to be discussed that councillors may wish to familiarise themselves with, that we defer this matter to the next committee meeting. The committees start next month, where we can tease out and discuss any issues in a more detailed environment. That means effectively that this matter would go to the committee. The questions and answers will be provided at that committee, and it would come back to the next ordinary council meeting at the end of March. So, Councillor Fardell, Naji, would you be happy with that?
Just through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr.
I'm just wondering if there's any relevance to this, because if the lessee, the actual lessee, there's an issue with rental, that's an issue between council and the lessee. When we decided on Hurricane, we never brought those issues into consideration to punish Hurricane, and it seems like that we are going to take that into account, and which will affect the what is it called, the Republic of Shisha Republic or
yeah,
whatever?
the sub lessee.
Okay, so I can't see the relevance there. I think we could deal with this notice of motion, and if there is any issue with the lessee, then the council would take the appropriate process to deal with that. So I think we can deal with the motion in front of us there. Thank you.
Just one moment. I was just seeking advice there, because, as I said, it sounds like there's a bit of discussion to be had, and if we're looking at point 3 there, we really need to move into confidential at the end of this meeting. So, are we happy to do that?
Can we move that way?
Sorry?
Can we move that way?
Is
I'd
seconded?
like to move that. And
Yeah,
if there's a
seconder.
seconder, we can go down that path.
Councillor McDoodle. So it's resolved, we'll defer this until the end of the meeting. We'll go into confidential at that time. Thank you. But we'll go confidential at the end, right? So. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Assad, there's a confidential paper attached to this motion, and it's been resolved that we will be moving into a confidential session at the end towards the end of the meeting. Sorry? On that? Okay. All in favour of moving this into a confidential session at the end? All in favour say aye. Aye. Declare it carried. So, Mr. Assad will advise you of the outcome after the end of the meeting. Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Thank you. We'll call the Mayor and Councillor Douglas back into the chamber, please.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Morrissey, for taking the chair. We now move to the reports, and we start with 7.1, and I believe there's some people that no one's the non-pecuniary, less than significant, no one leaving the chamber for this one. All right. Okay, so we have 72, item 7.1, 72 Laycock Street, Bexley North, in relation to the agreement for lease with order of AHEPA. So there's an officer's recommendation before us. Do I have a mover?
I'll move it, Madam Mayor.
Moved Councillor Saranowski. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barlow. Is there any, would you like to speak? Is there any discussion on the matter?
I'd like to ask a handful of questions. So after, through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager, after the 20 days have elapsed, so 20 days, we've given this organisation 20 days to get their house in order, which is almost 6 years plus 20 days, but that's okay. So 20 days, what happens after that 20 days? What further extension is there a possibility that will be granted through a future officer's recommendation? I know it's a rhetorical question to a point. However, there must be a point where we need to draw the line in the sand. This is a community asset that's not looked after very well. It's gone down the toilet, so to speak. The residents want to know what's going on. I know there's a new DA that's gone in. The old DA information has disappeared, so there's no reference to that when people go on the portal. That's a discussion for another day, but maybe we can get an answer to this one first. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager.
Through the chair, the recommendation does include returning this item to council in 20 days if the default has not been remedied. So I think you'll see that what we're recommending is that issue the notice, and if that is not, if the fault is not rectified, and there is only the one outstanding matter, which is the bank guarantee, if that's not rectified, that there will be a report on the agenda for the March council meeting for council to consider the next steps that it wants to take.
I also note that item 5 talks about a rezoning of the site. Now that pertains and goes back to the actual application that's been made, subject to the payment of the bank guarantee and so on. can we remove that and deal with just the default notice in this instance? And then if we need to come back in 20 days, or if they pay it up ahead, then we can put item 5 back onto the council agenda and rezone the land to suit the needs of these particular group. Because I can't understand where we've thrown that in amongst the default notices. We've just put it in there just for the sake of moving forward. Now, who knows if they're going to move forward? We've waited so long.
Through the Mayor, what is intended there is for council really to note that there will be a requirement for the reclassification of the land should the default be remedied. So it's not to occur now, it's should the default be remedied. So we're simply putting it out there so that you're aware of it, but no action will be taken on that point until the default matter is dealt with.
The question, who pays for the reclassification? I've just realised now I shouldn't have seconded it because that clause 5 does concern me, because the application before us doesn't comply at all unless that land use is changed. So who pays for the classification?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe we do pay for that.
Okay. Is there... So is there any further discussion before right of reply? No further discussion, right of reply,
No.
councillor? No?
I was not a right reply. I was just going to just make a couple of comments. Madam Mayor, in terms of the motion that's been moved, I believe is fair and reasonable. I'm quite happy for number 5 to remain. The only sticking point is in relation to the bond. Madam Mayor, in terms of, like, I'm not going to bore the new council of what's happened for the last 6 years and 20 days. But just say, I'm just going to say a couple of things. The proposal, I haven't seen the new proposal, so I can't really comment, and I can't try and influence any of the staff in terms of, but my understanding was this was for a community facility. It was going to be a cultural centre. Now, in relation to the 5, and that's what I want to agree to, is that because they've lodged a DA, the staff have to assess the, I assume we're going to go independent planner to assess the DA. Now, whether the DA is approved or rejected, I don't know. I can't comment on that. But I just wanted to say that this is a community organisation that have got a number of problems, and I was actually shocked and horrified that I didn't get a fax 1 minute before the meeting from the other side. First time ever. We didn't get any letters from the other side. Maybe it's true, but the critical issue is I hope the other side and these people get together and come up with a common bond, and that is to try and achieve the intention from the start was to have a cultural facility for the youth of the area. Now, yes, the building is pretty run down. Yep, I go past there every second day. Every second week. There's a nice pizza shop around the corner at Bexley North. I go there. It's a beautiful pizza shop, and I do see the building. That's why I didn't say the name. And the building is seriously deteriorating condition, but HEPA, to their credit, have paid for a rent for the last 2.5 years with no access to the building. So who in their right mind would be paying rent and not actually have access to the building? This puts them on notice. That to get their affairs in order, and if they comply with that outstanding issue, I'm sure this council will be proud of the finished product when it does get built. It is disappointing in terms of the court matters that have been raised over the last 3-4 years, but I'm hoping that something will come up and they'll be able to pay the bond. If they pay up the bond, then it's a tick, and off we go and try and resolve that issue once and for all.
Thank you, Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Naji.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director of City Futures. Has there been a new DA, and if there has, the process, how long does it normally roughly takes?
through you, Madam Mayor. There has been a new application lodged with Council just in the last week. The information is complete as far as we can see, and the fees have been paid. So that process is ready to start. It will most likely be determined by the local planning panel, and most likely on the grounds that we will receive a number of submissions. That's what we expect. So in terms of the assessment, we will decide whether we engage an external consultant to do that work for us, and that will also have an impact on the time frame depending on their availability and how that process goes. So the other factor in it is, of course, how the application stacks up in terms of planning controls and the objections that we received, and whether there's a need for it to be, some aspects of it to be revisited and amended information to be lodged. So in terms of time frame, with all those variables in there, it's a little bit hard to say. It will be a number of months, I would expect at least.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say, golly, golly, gumdrops. I can't.
That's an old one.
Yeah, I am an old person. It's becoming a real concern because this process could take another 12 months. It's already been, last time we debated heavily, and I don't want to bore as well the new councillor. It was 5 years, now it's 6 years, and it could be another year before another DA. Let me tell you that I was privy on the Eastern panel, and this would be the third DA that the group organisation. So the question here is why? Why are we letting this happen? 7 years, it's a community facility. It's not Councillor Nanji's property, or Councillor Hanna, or Councillor Saranovsky, or anyone. This is the community. This is injustice to the community. Why? Why are we letting this happen? And I'm not hitting out politically. Is it because a Liberal member was there from the Liberal side, or is there Liberal, Labor Party members? Why? I'm not alleging anything, but why are we letting this happen? I've asked again and again, tell me, all around Australia, has anyone experienced through this a council, anywhere, any council around Australia, not just New South Wales, where a tender has been awarded and 6-7 years later, nothing has happened? Nothing has really happened. Nothing has, it should have been done. Okay, and let me remind this council that originally when the tender was there, a HEPA through corporate scorecard, the corporate scorecard that this department assessed them on because of due diligence to assess their financials, they scored 2 out of 10. And I can't believe it that last year we extended, we keep propping up, extended to give him the opportunity to come up with the bond. And we were told by February, if they don't come up with the bond, we will do something about it. Okay, they're in breach. But look, the only way, because I'm really concerned about this community facility. I'm really concerned about the process, not alleging anything. But I am starting to feel very uncomfortable 6 years later, and from the director's mouth, that we don't know how long the DA process will take. It's got to go to the local panel. This could be another year or year and a half, and nothing is going to happen on that site. And I don't want to hear excuses about, oh, it's in a derelict state. Let me tell you why it's in a derelict state. Because it's been vacant. No one was looking after it. 3 bridges, I think, tendered for it. They were one of the favourites. I'm sure they would have done it and operating and serving the community with their programs or whatever. 7 years. The question is why? Why are we letting this happen? So I hope that we will put the pressure on to either provide the money, because they haven't been able to, and when the money is provided, where it came from. If the organisation cannot provide it and someone else puts the money, that should be a major concern to this council. How they're going to build their DA if they're relying on other people to support. Now, last question to my councillors here. Would we have allowed this to any other organisation? Would we have allowed them 6 to 7 years to any other organisation? I bet you, and I know that, the answer would have been no.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. So just, is there any other, you've had an opportunity, Councillor Sooner.
I asked questions before.
Yeah, we'll just see if there's anyone else, please. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I agree with everything Councillor Naji has said. Now, I wasn't on the previous council, but I was on the council before that where this was discussed. So that's 2012 to 2016. So I'm actually quite shocked to come back here and be talking about this same matter. Now, there's a general philosophy that I like to approach when I'm dealing with business matters. Don't allow yourself to have someone else's problems put upon you. And that's what we seem to be getting into here. So I think we've really got to draw a line in the sand. And I mean, if there's no one out there that can actually deliver what needs to be delivered, this might be a matter where, heaven forbid, council might have to look at doing something itself. Why isn't that looked at as an option? So I'm fully in support of doing the 20-day notice because 6 years is just far too long. And the other thing that needs to be borne in mind is that the bank guarantee is probably significantly insufficient because construction costs have actually gone through the roof. Aluminium's gone up 38% in the last 12 months. Timber's gone up between 40 and 50% if you can get it. Steel's gone up. There's a shortage of tradespeople. And if we're only talking about $1.5 million bank guarantee, it seems to me that it's nowhere near enough to cover what this council could be exposed to in the event that they don't deliver. So that's another issue that really has to be looked at. So, you know, we've really got to get this moving because this is embarrassing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Are there any people that haven't spoken that would like to speak? Councillor Barlow?
I have seconded that, which I didn't realise. I'd forgotten about clause 5. Can I have an explanation for clause 5? Does that mean we're changing it so we're expanding the use of the land? Because at the moment I've looked at all the people that said the existing use rights, they've got approved they've got existing use rights because the application is for a club. Now, I just want to know what clause 5 is involved.
We might just get the manager of property, Councillor Barlow, to come and respond.
So the clause 5 is related to the plan management, and as the GM indicated earlier, off the back of the resolution issued in the court notice, what we're basically saying here is that no changes to plan management will occur. The reason why we do need to change the plan management is because originally, when we went out for consultation, it was for community use and for sporting use, dual categorisation. When you actually look into community categorisation.
Can I just ask a question? Are they allowed to have a club there now? A club that's open till midnight or 11 o'clock and 1 a.m. At the moment they can't, but I have read quite a few of the responses before. It's all about existing use rights, so I don't know if that's helping them or not. I would like to know that because the community doesn't want a club there.
So advice is there would be no existing use rights because they would have expired. Yes, so then that would form part of the next steps in relation to...
Okay. So if the existing use rights have expired, why have they bothered to put a DA in without, they obviously don't learn. Okay, well, I'm a bit concerned. I think, the residents in that area are going to find it very difficult when it goes out on exhibition. I think it's on exhibition now. I mean, why did they take till the 11th hour, the 11th of February, to lodge a DA? We've given them 12 months, 3 months, another 3 months. But anyway, I'll still second it. I'll actually vote against it. But existing use rights have expired, so they have now a problem with the DA they've lodged.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. All right, is there any further discussion? Councillor Tsunis,
Thank you. Now, this is long and drawn out. I've never been against this application, but I've examined it. No, let me finish. Councillor McDougall, please. You are about Chinese trips and leave me alone.
Thank you, Councillor Tsunis. Please continue.
Sorry, excuse me? You want to repeat that, Councillor Tsunis? I heard you.
Okay,
should we play back the recording?
If you want to.
Thank you, councillors. I hope
Now,
that... one moment, please. Thank you. I missed anything, but I hope that we are abiding by appropriate behaviour, not making unnecessary comments. Thank you, Councillor Cedric.
Please, Councillor Cedric.
Please go ahead and stick to the
So I've
points.
never been against this application, but the merits of it have fallen apart. It's been here for way, way too long. I was the councillor for the area when it first came to the table. I did support it, and then a lot of holes started peeking through the veneer of what was being put up there, and then all the drama of the tour heppers doing whatever. That's by the side. Here we're dealing with what the application is in front of us, and an extension of what this organisation wants to do moving forward. So I hope that in the next 20 days they can get their house in order, bring us a bank cheque, put it in the account, that's it, or guarantee, whichever format they do. But there's still some things that really concern me. Like today we mentioned existing use rights. I'd like to ask, if their existing use rights have lapsed, do we need to go back to the Minister to request something else? Or is that sufficient in clause 5 to move forward? Because the way I understood it was, general use means, sports ground means we need to get a general use classification to allow parking within that sports facility, because at the moment we're not allowed to park within the sports ground.
Yeah.
So that's what I think that means.
Councillor Tsunis, I might just interrupt you there. So I think at the moment we're just dealing with the recommendation. So at this point, it's about the breach of notice, and that is what the recommendation is talking about. Yeah. So let's deal with these recommendations now, and those other matters it will come back to council depending on what happens in the next 20 days.
Well, let's examine 5 then in a bit more detail, because that is part of the recommendation, surely. If we don't want to talk about it, just say let's not talk about it. So I'd like to get some clarity on that. If the existing use rights have lapsed, does that clause in 5 bring them back to the table, or do we need to bring back more, a change of zoning or whatever it takes to get them back on the board to allow whatever facility they need there? Can we get an answer to that?
Through the chair, as I said earlier, this is actually flagging a process that will occur should the breach be remedied. Nothing will occur until that happens. It's simply saying to council that in parallel with the DA being considered, there will also be a reclassification of the land from sporting and general community use to general community use to better reflect what is going to occur on that site should this go ahead. That's really all that's about. And at this point, we're taking no further action.
But I still don't, so pardon my ignorance, that's planning spec. What does that mean? Does that mean that currently it's a sporting field, and because we changed the classification, we're allowed to park vehicles on the site?
It's actually about the shrinking of the number of bowling greens. So previously a lot of the site was given over to the bowling greens themselves. Now the current proposal is to shrink that number substantially and to have a different sort of outdoor recreation space with car parking. the general community use will permit them to do what they have included in the DA that has been submitted.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. I'm going to, I think we've sufficiently answered those. This is last question, because I think it's been explained quite clearly what the intention
Well, not necessarily.
is.
My question is now, if the default notice comes into play after the 20 days, does that resolution still impact upon whoever else comes in to be part of that land? We might put it out to tender again. Does that impact the new tenderer?
Madam Mayor, look, I just want to move that this motion be put, because the questioning, we're going around in circles, and Councillor Sun is just holding the whole council on one item, number 5. Now, the bottom line is, in the recommendation, number 4 overrides everything else. Now, Councillor Souness is speculating that in 21 days, what would happen if this happened or that happened. We want to put this motion, and we'll look at it in 20 days or next council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, that's been seconded, and the motion be put. Councillor Saranowski, right of reply? No. All right. All those in favour of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? The motion's being put.
No, that's the motion to be put, not the motion.
There's been no change. It's the recommendation is being put.
It's actually, the first thing is the put, but you vote on...
Oh, sorry. All right, so we vote on the that the motion be put. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. We now put the motion. All those in favour of the motion say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. Councillor Barlow would like her name recorded against the recommendation in report 7.1. All right, thank you very much. We now move to 7.2, which is update to the Botany Aquatic Centre. I have a mover, Councillor Muscat, seconded Councillor Morrissey. Is there any discussion? All right, I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. We now move to 7.3, the tender to Rosebery Town Centre, and that this moved Councillor Nargi, seconded Councillor Jansen. Is there any discussion? No. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. We move on to 7.4. This is the tender in relation to the SS Rock tree maintenance services. There is an officer recommendation before us. Either moved Councillor McDougall, seconded Councillor Awada. Is there any discussion?
Yeah,
I might just give the mover the first right of reply. Councillor McDougall.
I'll wait and see what Councillor Hannah has to say.
Thank you. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question. Does this mean that the council doesn't carry out its own tree maintenance anymore? And I seem to remember that we had one of those cherry pickers, and I know we never had stump grinding, which disappointed me greatly. But does this mean that this has all been contracted out, or is it a mix, or?
It is a mix.
Yeah.
Colin, we continue to do it.
Do we still have the cherry picker?
We might just defer to Mr. Clissold.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we still do have all the equipment. We run about 8 staff throughout that operation. They do remedial pruning, dead wooding, emergency services. But at times, we do need additional contractors to come in and help us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. All right, councillors, we move to item 7.5, which is... Thank you, Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor McDougall. We have an officer recommendation before us which recommends the terms of reference for each committee, changes the committee meeting timing. This is based on feedback from councillors when the report was put to the last council meeting. It allows for 2 committee 2 committee meetings on each of the first and second Wednesdays of the month sequentially. So councillors who wish to can attend every committee. And it also asks to appoint the chair, deputy chair members of each of the 4 committees. So I have a mover.
Yeah, it was seconded, wasn't it?
Yes, it was
Seconded.
seconded
Yeah,
by
thank you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor. Just a couple of a very minor changes to remove the word advisory from the committee. They're not advisory committees; they are committees of council, and also an amendment to the terms of reference 5.1 in each committee. It's the same there. It's fairly generic, but 5.1 be amended to make it clear that the committee comprises councillors only. Is that okay with you, Councillor McDougall? Thank you. The nominations have been provided to governance, and I think we've got that on the screen, and I'll be moving that that be accepted, that be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. All right, so following consultation, following the opportunity for all councillors to submit their areas of interest, and also consulting with all councillors over the phone. So these are the committees that are being put forward tonight. So we've got a mover and a seconder. So. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The question is, does the committee, who's decided on the chairs and deputy chairs? That shouldn't be, I don't know who that is.
So they're, those nominations are being put forward for council
the chair
to
and the
determine.
deputy chair has got to be voted for by the committee, as far as I know.
I've put those forward, Councillor Barlow, for determination. That's what we put in the motion up to adopt this structure.
Right, is there any further discussion?
Just a question, Madam Mayor. If someone wanted to change one of those committees, whether now or later on, is that possible?
So the terms of these committees are in line with the mayoral term.
We're on the Sport and Rec Committee last term for 4 years. Are they back on that committee? They were the ones with the knowledge, so I just wanted to know if they're back on that committee.
So I
don't know.
So yeah, we have the people that were on there was Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Nargi, Councillor Saranowski and Councillor Awada. So yeah, we do
Councillor
have.
Souness.
And
he came to every meeting.
Yep.
That I remember.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. So any further discussion? All right, then I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? I declare it carried. All right, we move to item 7.6. This is the proposed grant applications due for submission in February and March, so a nice tight timeline again for grants. And there's moved by Councillor Nargi, seconded by Councillor Saranowski. Would you like to speak to it? Is there any further discussion? Councillor Douglas?
I am speaking in support of this, but I do also want to point out a few things that I feel like it would be great for council to think about in the future in terms of these sorts of grants. I've looked at the Open Space Activation Fund, and previously it has not funded sporting grounds, rather land use for green and recreational purposes. I would love to see Bayside Council look at applying for funding to open up the Eve Street wetlands for community use or a mountain bike track around the perimeter of Riverine Park. There is a lot more to using green space than sporting clubs, and these grants are meant to address critical shortfalls in freely accessible public spaces. We already know that residents are complaining that they can't access the synthetic field now at Gardner Park, as they can't book it, as they don't belong to a sporting club. We can't lock up all our green spaces for use with sporting clubs. Let's get the balance right here. In regards to the Open Spaces Play program, let's in future consider a pump track and a mountain bike track for our community. There are already renegade pump tracks at Joseph Banks Park and at the Eve Street wetland. We've seen from the overt success of the skate park at West Botany Street that build it and they will come. We need more fun, healthy, free activities for our families and youth, like the remarkable Mount Annan mountain bike paths. People come from all over Sydney to enjoy that. Similarly, the Places to Swim grant. As a resident, I presented to the previous Mayor, Sarah Vanovsky, a survey completed by Bayside residents asking for more paddling facilities in the area. I asked for consideration of these facilities for this grant, but nothing has been tabled. Whilst I do support the St George Model Boat Club receiving council support, I do hope in the future that Bayside Council will embrace our rivers and coastal playgrounds by soliciting funds for more paddling facilities, for stand-up paddleboards and kayaks. Paddling and kayaks or stand-up paddleboards is a healthy, peaceful, low-impact activity for fitness and for the whole family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas, for sharing your thoughts around, us being cognizant of a range of different initiatives that are all important within our community.
Yeah, I
Councillor
know
Barber?
that the bicycle track or a pump bike track would be great. I actually had one in my backyard. I worked it out, it was 40 years ago, because my son's turning 50 this year. So
Fantastic.
And we were doing the sewer and we had all this problem. So I had all the neighbourhood in there riding their push bikes with over the humps and all sorts of things. But the problem with that is it does destroy the land. You've got to be very careful where you put it, because of the fact of what you wear and tear, and if it's in the wetlands, you just got to respect that. So I know the kids love it, but I'm not sure where in Rockdale we can put it, but it wouldn't be near the wetlands as far as I could tell, because of the going through there, you've got to respect that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Any further discussion? All right, right of reply.
If it's possible, I want to congratulate the staff for putting up a list of what we're going for the proposed grants, and I think you've done well. You've covered a wide variety of things. I mean, I've always said beggars can't be choosers. Let's wait and see if the state government going to issue those grants. And I keep hearing about Riverine Park. I just want to mention that Riverine Park has been sitting idle with nothing happening for the last 12 years, and since we started to think that what we could do for grassroots clubs and having a sporting hub, and that includes everybody, not just soccer. We're talking about rugby league, we're talking about cricket, and you get people still not happy about it. Let's get the grants first, then we'll come out, and I'm sure we'll be going out for community consultation because it is a must. But we are elected councillors on behalf of this community, all wards. And we out here to make decisions for the vision for this city. And at the end of the day, when we decide what we're going to do, of course, we must go to community consultation. And, we keep bringing up synthetic fields. We have learned a lot. And I, for one, that was always for synthetic. I won't until I get a report from an independent consultant to tell us whether it's harmful or not. Then I will decide what I would do. But at the moment, I'm not doing nothing. So everyone we all love open space, we all love trees, we all love nature. I don't think there's one councillor here who isn't for the environment. So let's think about the community, the youth. We have a big number of youth. Our statistics, we took statistics in this council back in 2008 or 2012, and it says this area, this side of the Rockdale LGA, and I'm sure now since we amalgamated, there's a lot on the other side. There's a lot of sporting activities, a lot of sporting organisations, and we must support sport. It doesn't matter whether it's soccer, rugby league, cricket, whatever. We did with that netball. We gave a big upgrade. We went for an upgrade to make sure that they get a better facility, and that is for netball. So I commend the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Naji. All right, I put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. Item 7.7 has been dealt with in the public forum and it will go to the closed session. So I move to 7.8, which is the proposed classification of affordable housing units at East Gardens as operational land. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Jansen. Would you like to speak to it?
Only just to say that this is a result. This is one of the good outcomes we get from planning from time to time. All too often our hands are tied. We've got a lot of overdevelopment going on in our area, but this is actually a benefit to our community where we're getting affordable housing to offer to those that need it most. We have a very good operator running that on our behalf, and it's really exciting when now that these are being delivered after years and years and years of talk, we can actually go and represent our community and give them, support their housing needs at an affordable cost. So it's a very good outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. I put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. This takes us to 7.9, which is the draft art policy. I have a mover, Councillor Jansen, seconded Councillor McDougall. Councillor Jansen, would you like to speak?
I've reviewed the draft. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've reviewed the draft policy, and there's some things that I'd like to have considered in this policy. So I'm moving an amendment that this item is deferred to the first relevant committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to Councillor Jansen? Seconded Councillor McDougall. Sorry? So we've got the motion, which is to defer the item to the relevant committee. So all those in favour of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. All right, that takes us to 7.10, which is the draft, the reconciliation action plan. And I just want to say this is a lot of work's gone into this. It's as a diverse nation, as a diverse community, it's about embracing a range of cultures, being inclusive, and but first and foremost, we acknowledge that our history did begin with our First Nations people, and it's important that we do recognise our history. And this reconciliation action plan before you tonight is just the beginning, and it is an important first step to building these partnerships and working together. And it will lay the foundation for future RAPs and reconciliation initiatives through a program of actions and deliverables developed in consultation with community, with elders and key stakeholders. And I would like to think there was a range of community members over a period of time who there were a number of meetings held, and I attended some of them as well, where there was a lot of consultation across a lot of people. And I'd like to thank those community members. I'd like to thank our elders who provided valuable input. I'd like to thank both the Metro and La Perouse Land Councils, and then also council staff who were our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander staff who contributed, and then our community life staff as well. So a lot of time and effort has gone into this, and it is it will be an evolving document there. So you've had the opportunity to have a look at that. Can I have a mover?
Yeah, I'll move it, Madam Mayor.
Moved, Councillor Saranowski, seconded Councillor Jansen.
Can I make a suggestion? Where we've got point one, where we've, can we add that we send a copy to all our MPs?
Yep.
And when I say all our local MPs, upper house and lower house, send them a copy. And our federal member, Linda Burney, she's, if we can send her a copy, I think it's important for this kind of statement that at least we notify our local members of our position. So,
thank you, Councillor Saranowski.
Hmm?
We can add that.
Yeah, actually, Councillor, it's just reminded me, we have the member for Cook we never see, so if we can maybe send him a copy.
Thank you. Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to support your earlier words and congratulate everyone involved in this document. It's a really terrific document and I think we should be proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. Is there any further discussion?
I was
Councillor
lucky enough to
Barlow?
go to the prize awarding the prize awards of this, and they were amazing. I know, but that's incredible. But to see the girl that did all the pins individually, that was amazing. So hopefully it says it's ongoing, so hopefully there'll be a continual evolving. And one of the juniors, it was lovely because it was a lovely thing to have her one, because I think we framed it for her, didn't we? Yeah, that's right.
No, lovely. Thank you for sharing, Councillor Barlow. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Douglas?
I also want to speak in support of the motion and wanted to mention that at the recent Landing Lights wetland tour, we were privileged to find out some amazing history about our First Nations community here, which I would love to see shared with the wider community. I mean, we have a statue for the First Fleet on the foreshore at Brighton Le Sands, but we don't have anything commemorating our First Nations people, and I really think we need to get that addressed. And so I was very excited to see that we are looking at visual commemorations as well as a wayfinding signage in dual language, which I'm also really excited about. I know that in other communities they're really adopting the right language for the right places and coming the right way, and I think that it'll be a really improvement and build on the Racism Not Welcome campaign to actually have that signage recognised for our CAMA for Botany Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow, and there will be opportunities through the committees to promote a number of initiatives that support events. All right, right of reply, Councillor Saranowski? No? All right, I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. This takes us to 7.11. This is the Botany Historical Trust Committee Constitution Amendment. So there's an officer's recommendation before us. Do I have a mover? Councillor Jansen, second, and Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Jansen, do you wish to speak to the item? No. Is there any discussion? No discussion. I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, declare it carried. We now move to 7.12, the selection of the new independent members of the Risk and Audit Committee. And if councillors had the opportunity, there are some really good, the CVs were very strong and some really good applicants there. So there's an officer's recommendation before us. Moved Councillor Morrissey, seconded Councillor Barlow. Councillor Morrissey, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Only just to reiterate your words, I'm sure councillors have read the report, and there's really high quality candidates who are now coming externally into our organisation to help us. As a member of that committee, I'm really excited to see now we're in the second term of an amalgamated council. There's still some ongoing challenges, and to get a fresh set of eyes with a lot of life experience and experience across all different backgrounds. I think it's going to be a really good support for our council body, for us as a group, to hear their thoughts and ideas about how we can continuously improve.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey.
Make a
Councillor
comment. I'm not a
Barlow.
member of the committee. I was for before, but I just want to remind everyone that you're all welcome to go to it. It is a committee that you should go to. It is actually delving into something that you wouldn't even... It's quite incredible what happens and the amazing work the staff do. So I'm saying if you're not a member of the committee, you can still attend, which I might do and I might not, but I'm not an official member.
Thank you for the encouragement, Councillor Barlow. I will put
Sorry,
Councillor
just
Hannah.
a question, Madam Mayor, just out of interest. The quality of these candidates is just incredible. I'm assuming that council pays these people. They do get remunerated for this, don't they? Yeah.
There is a remuneration, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right, no further discussion. All right, I put the item. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare it carried. That takes us to item 7.13. This is a 6-monthly progress report on the delivery program and operational plan for 21-22. Councillors would have had the opportunity to read through a range of projects that are currently underway. Is there a mover? Move Councillor Morrissey, second Councillor McDougall. Councillor Morrissey, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's such an extensive list, and I think it's during the challenges we've had with the pandemic over recent years now, a couple of years, the fact that some of these are still, there's some delays there, and I think that's acceptable, but there's still a lot on the agenda. And in this term of council, I think we should all look forward to a closer relationship with directors who are driving these things. I think the committee structure will also support that, where we can really get down as a group and know exactly what's going on. Just feedback, and maybe we can raise this in the committees, that I just found it a little bit with the green, amber, red structure a little bit difficult. And if I'm looking through that, amber is not necessarily a good thing if councillors if the team are still hitting all their milestones. So potentially we should be looking at, if it's tracking green, that as a council body, if we're looking through pages and pages and pages of deliverables, if we're seeing that everything's on track to be delivered in accordance with the plan, potentially that should be green. If it's a little bit behind, we go to amber, and if it's way behind, we go to red. At the moment, we're only seeing a few little green dots, and okay, there's a lot of amber there. So probably it's just feedback, and I'm happy to discuss that further. It's just a little bit as a body, I think it's much easier to read. If things are tracking on plan for delivery, my view is that they're green. When they're delivered, we can send up the fireworks or something, I don't know. But
celebrate.
Yeah, if it's on track, it should be green. If it's off track, it should be amber or red, is my view. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Councillor Morrissey. Is there any further speakers? Councillor...
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, there's so much on track. And the council have been incredible with the difficulties they've had to have. And over the last few months, when everyone's had to have time off, and we've all had the phone calls about our bins not being collected, which isn't a council issue, but we all still get the phone calls. So I'm quite happy with the report the way it is.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Barlow, Councillor Douglas.
I just wanted to, I am speaking in support of it. I just wanted to mention that item 2.141, to deliver community play, I'd like to ask Bayside Council to consider street play initiatives. Most of you would have played on the street growing up. I certainly did. And kids these days don't play on the street. So only about 24% of kids get a chance to play on the street, whereas when I grew up it was about 73%. So it's a nice COVID-safe way for the community to get together and do these community play initiatives. And there's a group called 1,000 Play Streets. Yeah. So I'd love to see, I know around my neighbourhood there's a couple of very quiet streets. There's quite strict conditions about which streets can be used. They have to have a certain number of vehicle movements and whatnot, but I'd love to see that embraced because I know that in our community strategic plan and in our reports from the last term, safe streets is a really important thing that our community really wants to see in the area. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Douglas. We'll make a note, and I am familiar with that program as well. All right, any further speakers? No speakers. I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. This takes us to 7.14. This is the Australian Local Government Association. So each year they hold a National General Assembly, and it is held in Canberra, but it seems to indicate that there may be an online opportunity, potentially. I guess it depends. So what this recommendation is, allows for any councillor to nominate. Obviously, have some consideration for, have a look at the dates and see if that is possible. If you can't commit tonight, there's still a little bit of time, but we would have to do a group booking quite soon. So I might take nominations from the floor. Please put up your hand if you would like to nominate to go. Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Jansen. No one else jumping at it. Councillor Tsounis, you like that conference. Any others? So, well, why don't you, so once we book, we've then got to pay. So perhaps have a look, and let's say if councillors would like to commit to it, that they let the GM know by the end of next week. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, maybe we can always do, if closer to the date, you can be a late entry if there's availability. Yeah. All right. Oh, did I have a mover? Sorry. Do I have a mover for the motion? Moved Councillor Hannah, seconded Councillor Cedric. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. We have the final report, which is 7.15. This was in relation to Railway Street, Rockdale, in relation to proposed traffic calming treatments. These were pulled out of the last agenda, and there's a recommend. Are you moving the motion? Okay, we have a mover. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Saranowski. Councillor Tsounis, would you like to? I note that an on-site meeting was held with some councillors.
There was a handful of councillors turned up, but not that many residents, because only one particular person was impacted on the corner of the street.
Yep.
So the recommendation is not to proceed based on the feedback from that resident and the others. And there was some thought of putting a speed hump or some sort of vehicle calming device further up the street, but we'll examine that at a later date. One thing that I could just mention out of that particular site visit, walking around, the 40 sign on the ground was almost obliterated. You could hardly see it. It's 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres. You couldn't see it. That needs to be repaid. I know it's a separate issue to this, but I was going to suggest when staff go out, have an open vision of what's going on. The 40 sign that was opposite the street, on the street, the 40 sign, which is this big, was obliterated by the trees, by the growth of the trees. Let's sort of, when we go out and do site visits, as a group, to determine whether it needs a speed up, it needs this, it needs that. Let's have a look at what's the periphery of the area and make adjustments, and then say, okay, we still need a speed up, we still need this line moved, we still need whatever it needs to be, but in context of what's there. Now, I was just going to say to the Director of City Presentation through you, there's 2 old bus seats there, which is for the old people coming up the hill with their shopping. We need a coat of paint, so we'll get you spray can if we have got one.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tsounis. Is there any further discussion? All right, no further discussion. Then I put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Declare it carried. All right, that takes us to the end of the reports. Is there any, did you have a... Yeah.
Yeah, is there a question with notice? Is that permitted now?
Not an extraordinary?
Not extraordinary? It's in relation to the flooding, so I thought it was quite important that I asked the question.
Yes, you can put the question and it can be taken on notice. Thank you, Councillor
So
Morrison.
I just wanted an update. There was a motion put to council on the 14th of April 2021 in relation to severe flooding we had throughout the LGA at that point in time. Yesterday and the day before, that has entirely been repeated, and it doesn't seem as though anything has progressed. While I understand that there's flash flooding and the drains can't cope, and we get that, but there's very specific hotspots in this area where there is toing and froing about who is responsible for the maintenance and the upgrades of those drains. So the question is for the directors to review the notice of motion, which was on the 14th. I've got the reference number. I'll email it across. And ask for a report be tabled at the next appropriate committee from next month, and that report includes who's responsible for the maintenance repair of the stormwater drains. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Is there... All right, we'll take that question on notice. All right, that then brings us to we will now move into closed session and to deal with item 7.7. So I thank the public for attending, and I thank the public who is listening online today for joining us. We will now be moving into closed session. In accordance with Section 10A4 of the Local Government Act and Council's Code of Meeting Practice, I invite members of the public to make representations to whether or not this part of the meeting should be closed to the public to consider the confidential item. There being no representation, I move that Council closes the meeting to the public for the reasons outlined in the report. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Tsounis. We will now vote on closing the meeting to the public. Are there any councillors voting against? I will therefore take it that all are voting in favour unless you indicate otherwise now by saying against. No one has said against. I declare the motion carried. I ask the press and public to leave the chamber before we consider the confidential items. I will also be removing myself, and I will invite the Deputy Mayor to come and take the chair. Are we in closed session? Thank you.
Thank you.